Death da, Obi Nakan. Welcome to podcast number 172. So tonight is going to be old school, mainly because I am a chance to interview anybody. We've been that busy. I got somebody in mind. I spoke to her a few weeks ago and we all okay, but it's just been manic, absolutely manic. In fact, I did work all weekend. Paperwork in the morning, funeral in the afternoon, paperwork all day Sunday. So it's now got to Wednesday evening, 23rd of December, and I thought I'll just sit down, just do a little podcast, and then at least you got a little something to listen to after Christmas. But going back end of last week, since I spoke to you last, we was up Llanteglis Church, which ties in actually with the last 3 episodes I did with Margaret, because she actually lives, 100 yards away from the church at Llanteglis, and 'tis a beautiful little church right down in the valley. I did put a video on our RJ Bray Facebook page, actually, because it's got a beautiful, water gushing out of the wall. I wouldn't say it is a waterfall, but continual water gushing out of the wall. And I just did a little video of that, panned it around to the church. It is church in the valley, which it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But of course, 'tis down in the valley, 'tis by the water, 'tis a hang of a damp. And to try to keep a building like that in good repair, I think it does take some doing. But we had a lovely funeral there on Friday. Church was full. And back for a burial afterwards in the churchyard, which, to be honest, is filling up. There aren't many spaces left, but I know there is a new cemetery just up the road that will soon be ready, for new burials. But like I say, it is Llanteglis, and it's Llanteglis by Camelford, because there is another one by Foy. But this is the one up our way, and I say all went well. And then we had a couple of cremations in the afternoon, and that was me Friday. So, like I say, Saturday morning of paperwork, and then we were at St. Column Parish Church for Sally's funeral. And I did put a video on today, actually, of the lights in St. Column, because they're fantastic. They really are. They just, from the back of the church right the way up to the front, hanging down from, the ceiling, beautiful white lights, the Christmas tree there. If you haven't seen it, I must admit the video don't really do it justice. But, it is absolutely brilliant. And 'twas for Sally's funeral. Again, a church full of people, a lovely service, and we had a brilliant touch. I'd never had it before, and that I can remember. I mean, I've been going for like 42 years now, is it? But I'm sure we haven't had it before. And it was a lovely touch. We actually had white fairy lights in the main floral tribute that was on the coffin. And to be honest, that matched in lovely as well with the lights in the church. And I did put photos on our Facebook page, because I did the main photo in the daylight, but again, it didn't really do it justice. So I got it into one of the rooms there at our chapel, turned the lights off, turned on the fairy lights, and it looked stunning. It looked just as good in the dark as it did in the daytime. So, we had a lovely service there in St. Column, and then we went up to the cemetery for the burial. Saturday evening, we did have a bit of time off, and we went up to England, up to Plymouth, so not too far, just over the Tamer, and to a little pub there called The Junction. And I love that pub. It's got live music there all the time. Been there before for Frank Turner, which was brilliant, because he was doing a tour with his band, and then for a one-off, he just did an acoustic set there at the Junction. Tin that big. You're restricted to numbers there. But we went there on Saturday because one of our dear little mates, Sophie Smith, who's from Rock down here, our group was playing in the Junction. And it was a bit of a different night, really, because it was 3 groups. None of them are covers bands, but they all did agree to play all the songs of one group. And the first group on, well, they was brilliant. They chose to do Muse. And if you know Muse, I mean, that is just so difficult. The range of the vocals gets up so high, and the singer got them all. The guitar work, they were really spot on. The second group, I didn't really know who they were meant to be. That's my old age showing. And then the third one was Sophie's group that were playing all Paramore songs. And it was a brilliant evening. Really good. Some of you might know Sophie. A lot of you from down this way will know her granddad. He's done a podcast with us, Warren Jago. And we had a lovely evening there, and then back home to the Duchy. And then on to Sunday, and I spent all day overwork, doing paperwork. So I had no weekend, really. One week just merged into the other. But with Christmas coming up, you are restricted, actually, obviously, because we got a few days coming up where we won't be working as such. We will be on call, but we won't be in the office. So I felt I needed to do it. And then on to Monday, early start again Monday. We were in at Glyn Valley for 9 o'clock for John's funeral, and then back to St Minver for Ari's funeral. And again, a lovely crowd, church full, chairs had to be put out. Ari, a good old St Minver family he comes from. We had his service there. And again, another burial. 'Tis funny, really, how you get these coincidences. So we had 3 burials there in a row. And also it's like different areas. I know I've said before, you'll sadly have 2 or 3 people pass away from one town, and then the next week tis another town. So you get all of these coincidences, but all was well there. And then no more funerals now till after Christmas. So I've had a day of paperwork today. I've been going flat out. I don't feel like I achieved anything at all. It is the 23rd. And usually, well, for the past, I would say, decade, 23rd of December, I've always tried to leave work a bit early to go down to Mosul. Now, we say Mosul, but it's actually spelled mouse hole. And somebody down that way, they might be able to throw a bit of light on it. I've heard a couple of reasons why it is called Mosul. One is because it's a tiny little harbour there, a port, I don't know. The other one is that very nearby there is a hole, a big cliff in the cliff face there that looks like a mouse hole. So it's a mouse hole, Mosul. I'm not too sure, but 'tis, well, quite near the Penzance, just the other side of Penzance. Beautiful little harbour. You've got like the fishermen's cottages, the small boats there. And every Christmas, they do put on their Christmas lights. And also 23rd of December, we have Tom Balcock's Eve. Now, as I say, we've been going for quite a few years. The last couple of years, it has seemed to have scaled down a bit. I think it's been a victim of its popularity, really, because obviously everybody goes for the lights. It's such a small little village, a port. You've got to park maybe 2 miles away, a hang of a walk to get there. And they used to have this beautiful procession with lanterns lit that the children would carry through the streets, down into the harbour. It was always brilliant if the tide was in, because then they'd put them on the water and they would kind of float out. But we went last year and there wasn't a procession by the time we got there anyway. And I spoke to a few locals there, and there was mention that it had got too big. There was no kind of insurance cover. I don't know, but we went down there this year. So whether they've had the procession this year, no, I don't know. But we always like to go down there, have a few chips. I mean, with Tom Balcock's Eve, the legend goes back. I think I did say about this before, but I'll just recap quickly. Mosul, they had a rough old winter. They couldn't get out to do the fishing, and the village was starving. And Tom Balcock, he risked his life to go out fishing, and he brought back the biggest catch ever. and it was enough to feed the village. The type of fish that they caught, because they still sing a song about him now, and the type of fish that he caught was turbot, ling, mackerel, herring, and pilchards. And they got all of these fish together and they made these big pies, and with the fish heads poking out of the crust, looking to the stars. So they call that stargazy pie. And I must admit, I was never really a fishy sort of person. I used to like me cod and chips when I used to eat fish. But we did have the stargazy pie once because they was giving it out in the pub down there. And yeah, it wasn't too bad at all, I must admit. It was quite tasty. But so they celebrate Tom Balcock's Eve every year. And I know the first few years we went down, I'm sure it was Bagus de Gaulle was down there. Now, they'm a little Cornish bagpipes. There's only 2 or 3 of them. And I think Bagus de Gaulle is, I think it's Cornish for Feast Day Band. And they used to play some old Cornish songs, tunes on the Cornish bagpipes, which are a lot simpler than the Scottish bagpipes. And I say I've got one of their albums. I think we're going to party like it's 13.99 or something like that. And it's a fantastic mix of UB40 reggae with these old Cornish tunes on top. But I say it has downsized a bit. I think it's become a victim of its popularity. But the Christmas lights then, they're absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. One thing I wish I could forget, one year we was running late and I tried to park as close as we could. I skirted around the outside of the village, come down the other way, and I turned the corner and I was right there in the middle of the village. And there's thousands of people there. And I had to keep going. I couldn't reverse. And you could hear people saying, "What's that blooming idiot doing coming down through here? Doesn't he know what's on today?" And I just wanted the earth to swallow me up. I really did. I've had a right idiot then. I've never made that mistake again. I tell you, never made it again. Another local tradition, here more closer to home, is in Padstow. And this is during December, and it's the Padstow carols that are sung. I think it's on Sunday evenings. I think they go around the streets and they're singing the Padstow carols. And a lot of the tunes are unfamiliar to people outside of the town. From memory, I think Roger Gould used to be very much involved with it. And before that, our dear friend Molly Pinch, she did it for years, kept it going as well. Lovely lady, she'd been gone a few years now. And I think before that, perhaps in the 60s, Raymond and Johnny Worden, well, that was obviously before my time. But I think it was while Johnny was in charge that the words and the music, they was all gathered together. I think Stephen Fuller, Ingris Grundy, they helped. And of course, dear old Donald Rowe was still around then. And with his printing business, they actually got all the songs and gathered them all together, the music and the words. And like I say, they go round different parts of the town in the streets and that, singing these carols. Something been kept alive for such a long time. And it looks in a very healthy state now. Right, so 'tis now Christmas Day evening, and I thought that was a bit short a podcast, and I thought, how can I make it a bit longer? And then I had a flash of inspiration last night, and I thought, I know what, I'll get Mother on. So I went up this evening and I interviewed Mother. It only lasted about 10 minutes, but it was really good, her talking about her Christmases and that. And I come back and I've got a glitch in my program. I don't know what it is, that every time I try to edit it, it overdubs. And I've tried everything. Last hour I've been here, I've tried a different phone, I've tried different microphones, and I just can't get it. So I don't think I'm going to be able to have Mother on, which was a pity, really, because she was talking about when she was young, Christmas was so different. There was obviously no TV or anything. Christmas didn't start until Christmas Eve, when my granddad would go out and cut down a holly bush, which was their holly Christmas tree equivalent, really. And they'd decorate it with silver bells and everything. And then on Christmas Day, all they'd have would be one present and then a stocking with an apple, a pear, banana. You know, times was hard, really. And then nothing much on Boxing Day. So she went through that. And then we talked about my Christmases when I was a kid, which was completely different. And it was just full on. We'd start on Christmas Day, and every day from Christmas Day to January the 2nd, we'd have a roast. And we'd either have people at our place or we would then go back to their place. So Uncle Ken, Auntie Marina, Joyce and Sam, we'd go them, they'd go to us, Nan and Gramp, Peggy Russell, out at Par. So we'd be absolutely stuffed. You have a roast for dinner, and then for tea you'd have cake and everything. And back when I was young, you never went in the front room. That was for special occasions. And then for Christmas, we'd be in the front room. Father would light the fire, and it'd be that all. Everybody would be sweating by the evening. The door would be open. The windows would be open. It's crazy. And I said to her, the things that I can remember is like one year they'd have all the Tarzan films on. I think it was like Johnny Weissmuller. I think was that his name, all black and white. And then the next year they'd have perhaps all Elvis films. And then the next one, all Beatles films. Because you only had two channels back then. You had BBC and ITV. So, we talked about all of that. You can't hear any of it. It's doing my head in. I'm open. I'm doing this in one take. There's no editing at all, because as soon as I edit, it brings in the beginning again and it's overdubbing. And it's going to be a nightmare trying to sort it out for next week. I don't quite know what I'm going to do. So sorry about that. Mother is on here. If in the future I can get it, or I'll get her to re-record it, because 'tis quite good, really, what she says. But there we are. So I think what I'll do for me, Cornish word of the week, I'll do Christmas cake, which I think we had Happy Christmas in that last week. So I thought if we do Christmas cake, that's Tessin na Delic. And then for me, Cornish dialect, if you see a lady and she's quite prim and proper and she's, very proud of her appearance, the way she's walking around and that, you would say, cool, look at her, she's some horse. And I suppose horse is like horse again. I don't know. But that's what people would say anyway. Right. So I'm hoping this is going to come out all right. Sorry about that. I'm gutted I ain't got Mother on. And I'm hoping we won't get overdubs. Otherwise, I've got to redo it all tomorrow on Boxing Day, and we got a full-on day tomorrow. I don't know when I'll have time to do it. But anyway, I'll speak to you next week. Wish you well. Do get us. Carno Bisfican.